Good morning. This is Blair with a Live and Learn Gardening channel. It is mid-June and we are, oh my gosh, we're about to have a week of 100 degrees for every single day for the 10-day forecast after today here in Austin, Texas. We're in zone 8B in central Texas, and man, is it going to get, unfortunately, hot. So one of the things that I do when it gets hot like this, even in Texas where the plants can kind of get used to it over time, 100 degrees is still really hot. So what I'll do is I'll go get in the garden and water it every other day during this time of the year, which is unfortunately basically June until September. But especially on those 100-degree days, especially if there's no cloud cover. There's a little bit of cloud cover today, so we'll see how that goes through. But direct sun at 100 degrees, well worth watering every other day. You don't have to water super deeply, but at least making sure the plants get watered, especially anything in pots. That being said, the garden is in absolute full bloom right now. It looks amazing, and I cannot wait to show it to you. Let's go. So as you can already see, everything is overflowing. There's the green bean plants are over there, and they're going completely crazy. These pepper plants, which if you remember earlier in the season, I was really worried about, are really catching up. This one's starting to put on flowers. I harvested several purple peppers from this purple bell pepper plant. There aren't any right now, but there's more growing. Oh, there's one, the little guy. But I harvested several, about twice as big as that at least. This Ancho Poblano is doing incredible. I harvest probably a couple every day or two. I harvested, I don't know, 15 or 20 about a week ago and made some salsa out of it. The shishito peppers are still doing great. I have to harvest them really regularly. They're a little bit smaller as the season has gone on, but there's still tons and tons of them. Well, that's interesting. That looks like, yeah, that looks like a bug got in there. So probably just pull that guy off and toss it in the compost. This plant is absolutely insane. I thought the 5 or 6 I had at the beginning of the season were going to be kind of the crop, but this banana pepper is gone completely wild. And this one over here is starting to produce as well. It's much smaller, this plant is, than this one, because I started it a week or two later, but the ones that I started kind of right on time, pepper plant wise, and that survived the pill bugs are doing incredible. This is, oh, that's my purple. Okay, and that's doing really well. Let's see. Okay, my red ones were the ones I planted later, and so I haven't seen any red bell peppers yet, but that's because we've got this one and this guy right here, and they are pretty well behind. This I'm pretty sure is pill bug damage, the leaf damage around the outside. This celery plant I've harvested quite a few stalks from, and it's got plenty more. And if I ever see like damaged leaves like this, basically, I just pull them off. I'm not going to eat them, and it's not helping the plant. So, okay, green beans are totally nuts. I'm so excited. This is really my first year with green beans. I think you'll notice that soil it's damp a little bit down there, but it's starting to get really dry on the surface. The white stuff is still the diatomaceous earth, so I'll probably water this pretty thoroughly, and I watered it just a day or two ago. This green plant I harvested yesterday and actually came through and harvested this morning. I'll show you my harvest at the end of the video for today, where I just came out and grabbed a few things. But there's green beans all over these plants, and the green ones, of course, are kind of hard to see, but the purple ones, you can see one all the way over there. The purple ones are a lot easier to see, so that's kind of a nice harvest tip, is getting colorful green beans are easier to see. This pepper plant, there's a few little peppers coming up on the top here, but oh, look at that pretty ladybug. Hi ladybug. But these red peppers are doing amazing, and this one down here right there is almost completely ready, so that's going to be, whoop, come on, focus, there we go. These red peppers are almost ready, especially the one on the left over there. Absolutely beautiful. Can't wait to try them. Also, these flowers are doing really well. They're in pretty decent shade right now, which is a good thing for snapdragons this time of year in Texas. One thing to note, this guy definitely got powdery mildew. Not a problem, because I also realized that the gourds that it's growing are pretty much inedible. I think they're just ornamental gourds. And a lot of them have been eaten. I think that guy's pretty much ready. A lot of them have been eaten by something coming through here, which is fine because I don't even think I can eat these anyway, but they're kind of pretty. So maybe pick one and put it in the house just for fun. What's great about these gourds is it seems I've got a rat or something like that, and it's eating the gourds rather than my tomatoes and other things. So right now I'm really happy with this, even though it's completely taken over my table. That's where I used to sit for garden videos. Can't do that anymore. And I think this is a different plant, so we'll see if it produces something different once it gets a fruit on it. All right. The nostrums, I trimmed them way back a few weeks ago, and they have really flourished since then, just making some beautiful new branches. And a few of my snapdragons have really taken off too. This plant is actually in a fair amount of shade during the day, and I think that's really a good thing, especially around noon. It's mostly flowers at this point, but the strawberries are doing pretty well. I actually picked one yesterday. It was not fully ripe, but I actually got to pick one, which was pretty cool. The basil, due to the heat, is already bolting. You'll see it gets real leggy and bushy at the bottom, just doesn't look nearly as healthy. And this one in particular has gone to seed. I picked a whole bunch yesterday to make some parsley, or not parsley, pesto, but this guy I'll probably have to replace with the one in there, which is actually doing pretty well. This guy, these are my sweet potato slips. I really need to go plant them somewhere else. They're starting to branch out throughout my entire, I might order some grow bags or something for these sweet potatoes because that plant's out of control. Tomatoes are doing really well, especially these plum. I honestly haven't tried them yet. I've made a few into salsa and that tasted amazing with roasted peppers, but I haven't tried the raw tomato yet for flavor, but they are producing really, really well. There's tomatoes kind of all over the place. I come out, probably pick 4 or 5 every morning that are just blushing. And then here's the sun golds. I've probably picked 10 so far total, but there's a ton on the plant, so I think we're going to get a lot of those soon. So as a note, this 100-degree weather is going to make it very hard for tomatoes to produce. I can't remember, it's either the female or the male part of the plant. Basically, it just can't pollinate this time or over 85 degrees. For some plants, some are more heat tolerant. I think the ones that I have are pretty heat tolerant, but basically the plant just really struggles when it gets up to things like 100 degrees. So it's something to note this time of year. Your plants may suddenly stop setting new fruit if it gets really, really hot. So it's actually almost, interestingly enough, we get a really early start to the season here in Texas, but it's basically almost the end of the season right now because it's about to get too hot for some of these plants to produce. Now, it's not the end of the season for things like eggplant. I'll show you those. Those are doing really well. This eggplant is doing really well. There's lots of fruits on here, and they're really cute little ones. So we'll see how big they get. This one is also starting to produce. If you're planting anything right now, I mean, you're just going to need to water it a lot. But right now you could plant, I would say you could probably plant an eggplant. It may not get as established as this, but you can absolutely plant it. If I was going to plant anything in June or July in Texas, it would be a watermelon or a cantaloupe. So that's watermelon. This is my cantaloupe plant. These guys are doing pretty well. And those are the main things I would recommend planting this time of year. Even these guys are really struggling. Oh man, I don't even want to talk about these tomatoes. I need to take this one off and give up on it. Basically every time I've been taking one off, then the birds attack a different one. But look at that. I think it's birds. I'll have to throw that in my compost bin. But just check it over here for now. But yeah, so these tomato plants in particular, this one and this one, are really struggling. And I took off a lot of the leaves to help the plant because the leaves were sickly. And then something started going after the tomatoes. And that's just, it's so frustrating. I probably need to put out some water for the birds or something. I don't know. There's still a few, almost every tomato has damage on it. So that's pretty frustrating to see. But, and I also probably need to get out here and need to put some mulch on the ground. That ground was pretty well covered in foliage until I cleaned up and trimmed up these tomato plants. And now it's, it probably needs some mulch now. I think we're finally ready to actually mulch in this bed. This bed over here is probably fine. Oh, look, there's a ready to go tomatillo. I can't remember if you're supposed to pick them when it's fully yellow, but I'm going to go ahead and pick this guy because I see it and I don't want to forget about it. But there's a tomatillo. Maybe I can make, if I get a few more, I can make some salsa maybe later this week. Yeah, there's more sun golds over here. The cherry tomatoes are doing great. They've got a little bit more shade overall, and the tomatillos seem to be doing pretty well too. And they've got a decent amount of morning shade, and then afternoon sun. And we'll see if they continue to set fruit. They definitely seem to be setting fruit on their own. I was hand pollinating or trying to hand pollinate for a while, but they definitely seem to be setting fruit on their own now. Happy little pickle pepper. I really don't want to talk about the Johnson grass. I actually went through and cleaned out basically this whole bed area, and it's fully back. Johnson grass is the bane of my existence. I think this garlic is finally starting to bulb, but it's weird. It doesn't seem like it has different cloves, but at least it's starting to turn brown, and I think it's maybe starting to bulb. This is my sweet potato. That's looking amazing. It's starting to take over the bed. It's going to spill out. My hope is it's going to choke out the darn Johnson grass. We'll see. I may have to go after the Johnson grass at least one more time to knock it back. These lovely roses my neighbor gave me are doing so well. I didn't even realize it was back in bloom again. I knocked off the blooms a few weeks ago, and it looks like it's fully back in bloom, which is lovely. Also, that butterfly plant over there is doing really well, which is nice. This zucchini plant has been amazing. I'm probably getting 1 to 2 zucchini a day. I won't get one today, but I got 1 yesterday and 3 the day before. I got this zucchini plant. I was out of town over the weekend, and there was nobody here to cross-pollinate to fertilize my zucchini plants. So I fertilized the one that has the flower open, but those other 2 there, I don't know if you can see, there's one there and there's one behind it. Those did not get fertilized because I was out of town, which is fine because we have more zucchini than we can eat. I've just let this fully spill out. It seems to still be protected from the vine borers. I think I'm getting a little risky here, but the plant is just so big at this point, which is incredible. So this eggplant is interesting. I think it's been producing eggplants, but something has been eating every single eggplant that's on here. Some animal, I think, has been eating basically every eggplant on both of these bushes that come out. And then this is a really frustrating one. I had these beautiful blooms on here on my scarlet runner bean, which should have turned into beans, but look, something ate everything off of it. So I don't know what that is. I'm going to try to keep a closer eye on it. Or maybe they're just falling off because it's not watered enough. The ground is pretty dry. We'll see. Obviously no plums, but still a really pretty plant. These are the sweet potatoes that I planted. One of the reasons I enjoy planting sweet potatoes so much, oh look, little lizard, is they are just so easy. So I put these in the ground and I will basically have to do nothing to them for the entire season. Love the heat. They'll grow like crazy. They'll be great. Pretty sure that's a weed. And then I've got a celery plant here that's going to get covered in sweet potato vines, which will actually protect it from the summer sun. So really excited to try lots of sweet potatoes this year because they are super low maintenance. Okay, that's something. That bag has gotten a lot bigger than any of the other ones. So maybe we're finally in fig season. I feel like it's usually around June or July. Seems like an odd time for figs to develop, but we'll see. Something's been eating the non-ripe ones and knocking them off the plant. Well, that was a quick June garden tour. I am kind of barely keeping up with just harvesting and eating everything that's in the garden right now. I've made, this week I've made salsa, a lot of sauteed zucchini. I'm going to be sauteing some green beans probably tonight or tomorrow night, and probably like every other night for the rest of the month easily, because there's going to be a lot of green beans coming through. I haven't really made any eggplants. I think I've made one because something is eating all of the eggplants before they get big enough to really harvest, which is fine. There are more eggplants than I can eat, and it's not the easiest thing to cook, so I'll just wait till a little later in the season. Here, let me show you my harvest. I showed you the green beans earlier. There's not very many purple ones yet, but look at these beautiful green beans. These are, I can't remember, Contender or Strike. I can't remember which one ended up coming up. And then this is the green bean Royal Burgundy, I think is the name of it. So that's the Royal Burgundy. I know I'm about to get a lot more of the purple ones. There's lots of the plants have been destroyed by bugs, but there's a good, I don't know, at least 6 or 7 that are really producing. And so I think we're gonna get a lot of green beans this year. I'm excited about that. This is the stuff I just picked this morning. These are my tomatoes. They're just barely blushing. You can kind of barely even see the color on them, especially this guy. You can see the color a little bit more on this side. You're really seeing the blush in contrast to the other ones, which are really green. But I'll stick these in a little plastic Tupperware by my, I've got like a kitchen sink that gets morning sun right on the windowsill. So I put all these in there, and then I just let them ripen over probably 3 days. And then I'm just pulling the ones out as they're ripe and using them for whatever I'm going to use them for. And then the peppers I just pick as needed. And I have so many peppers. I cannot wait to cook more. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I love showing you my garden, especially right now, even though it is a little chaotic. You saw how some of my tomato plants are just going a little wild. Some of the tomato plants are in dire distress. Squash plants that are over here that have powdery mildew. There's lots of things going wrong in the garden, and yet I'm still getting a lot of food. Plenty of food to feed my family. I even have people staying with us for a week, and it's plenty to feed their family as well. So gardens are, yes, about the wins. They're also going to be losses, but as long as you've got, for instance, people say, oh, I'm going to plant 1 pepper plant. So don't plant 1 pepper plant. Plant 2 or 3 pepper plants, because if one of them fails, you're going to be really mad. With tomato plants and things like that, I mean, I've planted 6 tomato plants. 3 of them are producing well. 2 of them are producing terribly, and 1 of them is like so-so. So that's just par for the course with tomato plants. You never really, and in any plant, having more than 1 just kind of gives you options, or more than 1 in a certain variety. More than 1 pepper plant, a couple different types of tomato plants. I also wouldn't just do like all 1 type of tomato plant, because again, if it doesn't work out, that one particular plant gets a particular disease or something like that, it's nice to have backups that are completely different plants, which are less likely to have the exact same disease, or at least it gives you more diversity. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope this inspires you. I hope you go out, and if you're just starting your garden now in Texas, water it a lot. Make sure, especially if you're putting in new seedlings in the ground, make sure to deep water them. 1 deep water a week, and a good sprinkle just to keep them happy if they start looking crunchy about every other day, especially on these 100-degree days. Have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.